Where does your strength come from? Not the strength in your arms, or the strength you show to other people. I mean the one that flickers quietly inside. The one that appears when you're alone with yourself. And just as quietly, where does your weakness come from? Is it something you're born with? Is it something you've inherited? Or is it something you've agreed to carry? As you listen now, notice what happens in your mind when you hear the word weakness. Notice where your attention goes. Does it move to a memory? A fear? Or maybe a feeling in your chest, a small pull downward? Just observe it. Don't change anything yet. Just feel the movement. Because today, we'll explore a simple but unsettling idea from Friedrich Nietzsche. An idea that touches that movement directly, and asks us to look at it with new eyes. Welcome to What We Are, a quiet place to explore consciousness, perception, and the nature of reality. I'm glad you're here. This episode is part of our ongoing series where we sit with a great thinker, not to admire them, not to debate them, but to use their words as a doorway into our own awareness. Today, the doorway is Nietzsche. If you've only heard the clichés about him, the mustache, the thunderous statements, the people who misused his ideas, try to let all that fall away for a moment. The Nietzsche we're meeting today is quieter, more human. A man who spent most of his life walking alone in the mountains, speaking into a notebook he hoped someone, someday, might understand. He wasn't trying to make you strong. He was trying to show you that the idea of weakness is not what it seems. Nietzsche said that most weakness is not physical. It is not even emotional. It is learned. It is absorbed. It is the echo of a voice inside you that is not entirely yours. Weakness, he believed, often begins as a posture the mind takes. A quiet surrender to something we haven't fully examined. He suggested that before we try to overcome weakness, we must first see what it's made of. So I'd like to guide you through a small, gentle experiment. Right now, bring to mind something in your life that you feel weak about. It could be a habit you can't break, a conversation you avoid, a dream you've postponed. Hold it lightly. Don't fight it. Just let it appear. Now ask, as softly as you can, where did this feeling of weakness come from? Whose voice does it sound like? And is it telling the truth? Just sit with that for a moment. Sometimes the answer is uncomfortable. The weakness isn't ours. It's inherited fear, cultural fear, old fear. Nietzsche's insight begins exactly there. At the moment you realize the weakness you carry might not belong to you. Nietzsche believed that many people live life by avoiding themselves. We avoid the very places where our strength is hiding. We walk around them, explain them away, call them destiny, call them personality, call them weakness. But what if weakness is simply a kind of forgetfulness? A forgetting of our own agency, a forgetting of our own depth, a forgetting that the self is not fixed, but fluid. To Nietzsche, strength is not domination. It is not force. It is not the loudness of the ego. Strength is the ability to shape yourself, to become more transparent to your own motives, to see the places where you've been asleep, and gently wake. Eastern philosophy says something similar, but in a different voice. Buddhism teaches that suffering grows not from what we are, but from the stories we tell about what we are. The self we defend, the identity we cling to, the labels we treat as truth. Taoism whispers that the strongest tree is the one that bends. Not because it is weak, but because it is free from rigidity. The neuroscience of today adds another layer. The brain is plastic. Patterns can rewrite. Identities can shift. Weakness is rarely permanent. It is a neural path walked too many times. What Nietzsche saw through intuition, science now sees through scans. But the insight is older than both. It lives in your direct experience. When you bring gentle awareness to a pattern, when you see it without collapsing into it, something opens, something soft, something strong. That opening is what Nietzsche called the beginning of self-overcoming. Let's step back for a moment. Why do we cling to weakness? Why would any mind choose a story that makes it smaller? Because weakness can feel safe. It reduces responsibility. It protects us from disappointment. It lets us hide from the edge of our potential, the place where we are most alive and most vulnerable. Nietzsche didn't condemn this. He understood it. He simply asked, "Is this all you are? Or is this who you have settled for?" And then, like a guide walking just ahead of you on a trail, he suggested something subtle. Your weakness is not a wall. It is a veil. And a veil can be lifted. So let's lift it a little. Imagine the feeling of weakness you held earlier. Instead of seeing it as a flaw, see it as a doorway. Behind it, there is something unexpressed. A value, a longing, a strength not yet embodied. If you feel weak in conversation, perhaps beneath it is a desire to speak your truth. If you feel weak in discipline, maybe beneath it is a longing for a life that feels aligned. If you feel weak in purpose, perhaps beneath it is a strength waiting for direction. Weakness is a signal, a map, a pointer toward the part of you that wants to grow. This is why Nietzsche believed weakness could be erased. Not by force, not by denial, but by illumination. You erase weakness not by pushing it away, but by seeing what it's hiding. Let's walk for a moment into Eastern thought. One of the quiet teachings of Zen says, when you turn towards something fully, it loses its power over you. A fear faced without judgment becomes spacious. A desire examined without grasping becomes clear. A weakness held gently becomes transparent. This is not so far from Nietzsche's insight. Self-overcoming is not aggression. It is awareness that transforms. In Taoism, the sage becomes strong by returning to what is essential. Not by adding more armor, but by dropping what is inessential. Nietzsche, in his own way, said the same. To become strong, you must shed borrowed values, borrowed fears, borrowed voices. You must become your own source. Even psychology echoes this. When a person sees the origin of their limiting beliefs, those beliefs begin to dissolve. Not immediately, not magically, but gradually, like fog in sunlight. Weakness fades not because we fight it, but because we see through it. So, how does this touch your life, right now, in this moment? Think again of that place where you feel weak. But this time, don't identify with it. Just observe it as a movement in consciousness. You are the awareness watching it. You are not the weakness itself. Notice the distance that creates a small, quiet spaciousness. In that space, you can ask, what is this weakness protecting me from? What does it want me to see? What is the strength beneath it, waiting? Maybe the weakness is not failure. Maybe it's a threshold. Maybe it's the mind's way of saying, something wants to change. Something wants to grow. Something in you is ready. And you don't need to transform everything today. You don't need to overcome all patterns at once. What you can do, gently, is take one small step. A single conversation. A single choice that aligns with your deeper values. A single moment of honesty with yourself. Strength is not built in sudden leaps. It is built in quiet decisions. And each time you move toward what feels true, each time you listen to the part of you that wants to expand, something in you straightens, deepens, strengthens. Not loudly, not dramatically, but authentically. Before we end, I'd like to leave you with one more image. Imagine your weakness as a shadow on a wall. It looks solid, dense, immovable. But a shadow is only the absence of light. When awareness moves toward it, it grows thinner, lighter, until you can walk through it without resistance. Weakness dissolves when you see what it's made of. And what you truly are is not something fragile, or fixed, or small. You are a changing field of awareness, capable of bending, evolving, awakening. Let this thought settle in your breath. What if the story of your weakness is simply unfinished? What if you are already walking toward the version of yourself that can hold more life, more truth, more strength? As you sit with that, notice the quiet inside you. Notice the subtle shift. Something opening. Something listening. Something remembering what it has always been capable of. And maybe that is the beginning of erasing weakness. Not by force, but by seeing, by understanding, by waking up to what you already are. Let this silence speak for a moment. Thank you for listening. This has been What We Are, a small space to remember, gently, that strength begins in awareness. And you are awareness itself. Until next time.